Hi,
Hi.
Justyna.
And Kuba.
We are from Poland and we travel around Europe searching for places important for our history, our European, our human heritage. Now we are in picturesque Ojców National Park near the cave Tunel the Great, Tunel Wielki in Polish, in Poland, in our country. And here was very interesting case. In 17th century, in the cave, someone buried a girl in the cave. It's very enigmatic, because in that time, in the 17th century, in Europe, people weren't buried in caves. They were buried in Christian cemeteries. Unfortunately, maybe you can visit Tunel the Great because it's inside the reserve, but you can visit another very interesting and beautiful cave. Thinking about this mysterious matter, you can visit the Ciemna cave, the dark cave. Neanderthals lived here tens of thousands of years ago. A Neolithic burial was also found inside. Now bats live in the cave. It's a beautiful autumn now, and winter is coming. The bats are flocking inside to hibernate for the winter. We don't disturb them and don't visit the cave until spring. So in spring you can visit the culturally interesting the dark cave, but the park itself is open for you all year round. Returning to the Tunel Wielki cave, the Great Tunnel Cave. Archaeologists made here two unique discoveries. One of them, the remains of a girl about 12 years old, buried centuries ago in a way that defies explanation, is a discovery unlike any other. The second one is one of the oldest camps in Europe, dating back 500,000 years. Today I will tell you about the mind-blowing firstly mentioned discovery, the burial of a girl inside a cave in times not so distant from today. By the way, a video about Ojców National Park itself is linked in the description. Take a look, because this park is a lovely little gem worth visiting. The girl. Her body lay in a simple grave dug directly into the floor of the cave, without a coffin. There were no ornaments, no possessions, no clothing preserved by time. Only one haunting detail set this burial apart: the tiny head of a chaffinch placed carefully inside her mouth. The second head, now a skull, of the finch lay next to the girl's head. Who was she? And why was she buried this way? The scientific results suggest that the girl may have suffered from stunted growth during her short life, yet her burial shows care, even reverence. Radiocarbon dating places her death in one of two periods, either between 1641 and 1688, or between 1730 and 1807. In these times, the area of Sąspow Valley formed part of a border between the set of lands belonging to the private Pieskowa Skała castle and the royal estate of the nearby Ojców Castle. The immediate surroundings of the Great Tunnel Cave were probably uninhabited in those times, and the surrounding villages were inhabited almost entirely by Roman Catholics. The local church and its cemetery stood just a short walk away. Yet the girl was buried far from consecrated ground, in the darkness of a cave. As if that wasn't enough, a finch head was placed in her mouth and another one placed next to it. Birds laid in a grave like this, it was not a Christian custom, nor a Slavic one. It was a deliberate, symbolic act, a ritual without parallel. Her DNA tells an interesting story. She was not local. Genetically, she stood apart from the Slavic population that lived in the region at the time. Her ancestry points north, towards the lands of the Finnic or Baltic people, maybe Lithuania. To explain the puzzle, the first date range makes more sense. If the aerial date is correct, the girl's life may have ended during the Swedish invasion of Poland, the so-called deluge, which took place in the years 1655 to 1660. The armies of King Charles X Gustav swept across the country, capturing Krakow and occupying nearby Ojców Castle. Contemporary accounts tell us that the Swedish forces included thousands of Finnish and Sami soldiers from the far north. Chronicles even describe Finnish women and children following the army from place to place, living in camps. Could the girl from Tunel Wielki have been one of them? And was it a crime? Among the Finnic and Karelian peoples, birds, especially small songbirds, carried deep symbolic meaning. They were seen as messengers between worlds, or even as the souls of the dead. In many northern traditions, the souls of children were imagined to take the form of tiny birds. The chaffinch heads found in the girl's mouth could represent this belief. The idea that the soul might fly free in bird form, traveling safely to the afterlife. Yet the mystery deepens. Why two birds? And why in the mouth? If the girl was of Finnish or Karelian origin, another detail may fall into place. In those northern regions, it was once believed that a person who died in the forest could not be taken to a churchyard. They had to be buried where they died, for the forest itself was sacred, a place watched over by spirits. Perhaps the girl died near the cave, and those who buried her followed this ancient law of the woods. Another darker possibility remains, that she was a victim of a violence, hidden away from view. But the care shown in her burial, carefully dug grave, the birds placed within, speaks against a hurried concealment. Whoever buried her had time to perform a ritual that must have been important to them. But cave burials had disappeared from Europe centuries earlier. By the 1600s, they were a forgotten tradition. The burial of the girl from Tunel Wielki cave represents the only one known post-medieval cave burial in Poland and the only one confirmed example of its kind in Europe from that period. Both the choice of the burial site and the placement of a chaffinch skull inside the mouth of the deceased, likely the result of an uncommon possible magical ritual, are features with known parallels. This extraordinary discovery opens a window. It allows us to look as if through a keyhole into the intricate realm of funerary practices and popular religious beliefs that remain challenging to fully understand. The evidence points towards two main possibilities. Either she belonged to a Finnic or Karelian group, perhaps connected to the Swedish army that once occupied this region, and her death in the forest required a burial outside consecrated ground. Or she met a tragic end and was hidden away. The first seems far more likely. The placement of the bird heads, so carefully done, fits with northern beliefs about the soul's journey after death. It suggests not fear or secrecy, but devotion and meaning. Even so, the act remains unique. The mystery of the girl from the Great Tunnel Cave, her origins, death, and the symbolism of her final rest still eludes explanation, and the situation that led to it remains beyond the limits of scientific explanation. Besides those presented here, another possibility comes to my mind. The girl fell victim to a ritual of some dark sect or other group of people, referring to ancient rituals from the north or even from the territory of Poland. Here in the south, Goth burials from the 2nd to 5th centuries AD are known, in which a bird was placed in the coffin. What do you think about this intriguing case? That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, because we have much more stories about intriguing, maybe mysterious places which will appear on YouTube soon. So see you in the next one or on the trail. Bye bye.
Bye.